Hey, it's Sam, and today I'm talking about the new moon in Ardra, nakshatra in Gemini, that is starting here on June 28th. It's the beginning of a new cycle that's going to be happening. June 28th is the beginning, as I'm recording this on June 27th, so that's tomorrow. We're right at that dark phase of the moon, when the moon is right on this cusp. Actually, this is the 27th. The moon is in Taurus, in Mrigashira nakshatra at the very end, and then tomorrow it will be in Gemini in Ardra nakshatra, and we're going to talk about Ardra, the storm god, the howler. It's related to Lord Shiva in that destructive modality. So it's going to be a lot of transformation, destruction, intensity. You see Mars has just also gone into Aries, joined Rahu, which is something I've been talking about since the end of last year. So a lot going on there. And so we're going to get into that. It's also, I wanted to let people know about the mega class special, actually Vedic Astrology Essentials.com is the website. And it's a great way to get 10 hours of classes if you want to start learning how to approach Vedic astrology and really understanding your life and nature in the cosmos through the lens of Vedic astrology. This is a great way to do it. 3 classes, yoga, Ayurveda, and Vedic astrology, 6 hours of a weekend course that I taught. People paid close to $300 to come to that course. But this first day is all about Sankhya philosophy, all about the philosophy of yoga and Ayurveda, and the structures that support the Vedic astrological practice. You must know these things, or else you might as well keep doing Western astrology, which is fine, but you're not going to understand the Indian approach to life. That includes yoga, meditation, and all those things, unless you understand this Sankhya philosophy. Quantum Vedic Astrology and Neuroscience is another class that you get access to, 2 hours, 2-hour lecture where I go over these principles of neuroscience in the brain, the triune brain, cognitive biases, how we can see these things astrologically, and also quantum physics and how our intention and attention and our karma collapses the wave of potential into the particle of action. So again, the infinite possibilities are there within any circumstance, and that quantum moment is what I'm going to be talking about, or what I talk about in the Quantum Vedic Astrology class. And then the Spiritual Astrology Master Course, I talk about this particular one is where I talk about the nakshatra deities and how you can focus your attention on those stories. So again, only $9.47 for this 3 courses that can shift your life today. These are screenshots from the class, from the manual. So take me up on that. All right, so let's take a look at what we're doing here. Starting June 28th, we have this new moon in Gemini. And the new moon's when the sun and moon come together in a particular section of the sky. We have the beginning of that cycle, of that 30-day cycle. And as it's said in all the Vedic astrology texts, my hair is the zodiac is pinned to the sidereal sky. There's no question about this. The sky is nakshatra based, sidereal, nakshatra based, which are the portions of sky. And then the 12 zodiac signs lay on top of that, right? And so when we do that, then by the time we get to where the sun is in the sky right now, the sun is at 12 degrees of Gemini as I'm making this recording on the 27th. On the 28th of June, he'll be at 13, right? And that's in the nakshatra of Ardra. Ardra is related to Lord Shiva in his form of Rudra. You even hear the name Rudra in the name of the nakshatra Ardra. And this is a section of Gemini that's very transformative, destructive, goes against even what you would call tradition or convention. Conventional wisdom is to just follow whatever the gurus say. Just tell me what to think, tell me what to believe, right? And I'll just follow obediently, which is very much those qualities of Sagittarius. Well, the qualities of Gemini says, wait a minute, I'm not just going to blindly obey. You have to have it make sense to me. What does it mean? How does it work? Explain it to me, right? Those are the qualities of Gemini. Wants an explanation, not just a belief system, right? And in fact, very suspicious of belief systems for the most part. And those who tell us to just believe. Well, why should I just believe? If it makes sense and if it's true, you should be able to explain it. And that's factual, right? All great spiritual teachings and traditions can be explained and understood. By the way, that's exactly what I'm doing in all of these classes, in this integral astrology class. I'm not all of these, and I'm not just saying this so you buy the classes, but Vedic astrology and Sanatana Dharma is what it's called, and yoga and Ayurveda. These aren't just beliefs. This isn't like, I believe in yoga or I believe in astrology. It's not a belief system. These are sciences, and I can explain why and how they work. As you can even see here on this, if you could see it, this timeline of life on Earth, this video 1, this is where I explain the timeline of life on Earth for 4.5 billion years. And these eons of time measure up exactly with what Sankhya philosophy says. I talk about the sacred number 108 and how the ratio between the sun and the moon, scale and distance between the sun and the moon, is shown in the sacred number 108. It's not just a belief. That's why we say 108 mantras. And then those things filter down into gunas and elements and structures. And then the planets rule them. The reason I'm saying this is because that's very Gemini-like. To take these teachings, for example, like the teachings of Sagittarius, because Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, Sagittarius can just be too dogmatic. Oh, just believe, just believe, just believe. Jupiter in general can be just too faith-oriented. But Gemini says, wait a minute, no, I'm not just going to believe. Again, if it makes sense, then you should be able to explain it. If not, then why should I believe you? Why should I trust you? So these are big themes right now. Not just taking things on faith, not just believing what we're told, not just, for example, even making laws based on faith and religion. Here in the United States, we just had a major court decision that it's actually reverberated around the world where the court, which is related to Jupiter, just overturned Roe v. Wade, which now doesn't guarantee a woman's right to a safe and legal abortion, which, again, none of the rest of the civilized free world, liberal democracies have such restrictions where now they can be completely prohibited, even in cases where the mother might die and everything else. So again, and it is very much a religious move, right? And the Gemini part now, the Gemini nature is to question these beliefs, question these religious beliefs. And the Ardra section of Gemini, again, related to Shiva, is to say, hey, I'm ready to blow this place up in order to get to the truth. So Ardra is one of the most destructive nakshatras as well, where a lot of destruction happens. For example, 9/11 happened when the moon was going into Ardra. The tsunami in 2004 happened when the moon was going into Ardra. A lot of things happened when the moon was moving from Mrigashira into Ardra. So even on June 28th, like in the morning, as the moon is moving, I say, in the morning on the West Coast, but as the moon moves from Mrigashira into Ardra, it's a lot of dangerous energy. So even if not this month, next month, and especially because this is a new moon as well. So we might see some intense things happen even on the 28th. I've already said, because of the a lot of the dangerous situations, especially with Mars now going into into Aries with Rahu and these recent eclipses, that it's quite a dangerous time, especially for things like assassinations and war. Of course, we have this war in Ukraine is now getting more and more deadly and urgent as Ukraine is losing ground. And again, what could happen if Russia takes over Ukraine, which is their plan, could set the stage for what people are calling like World War III kind of scenario. Again, I'm not predicting that, but these intense times are upon us now. And I said this last year that these were going to be some intense times. But in addition to that, we also have a lot of planets in their own signs. And it's also a great time to be doing things like studying, committing to excellence in your life, committing to great teachings and teachers. Because, for example, we have Venus in Taurus with Mercury. So this is very powerful to create beauty and joy in your life, to surround yourself with those who you love. If you're in a, beautiful relationship or something like that, or even if you want to be getting into one, this could be a great time for those kinds of things, especially if your dashas and your chart shows that this is a good time. Venus in Taurus is very supportive of that, particularly with Mercury also there. In addition, of course, Mars in Aries brings a lot of discipline and yogic power and the willingness to fight for what you believe, but it can also lead to fighting, which again, now we're going to see some major fighting going on with Mars in Aries joined Rahu, as I've been saying, but it gives us the courage to fight. And maybe we should have been fighting before it got to this point, fighting for things politically or whatever before it got to the point, because I don't know why people are shocked that, for example, the thing that happened with the courts, they also overturned a major law, 100-year-old law, a New York state law that outlawed New York state's right to not allow conceal and carry of a handgun. So in New York, it was illegal to conceal a firearm. That was the law for more than 100 years. And the court overturned that law as well. So they're overturning laws based on a very conservative, originalist interpretation of our Constitution, which is really just, it's very dangerous because they're overturning existing laws, which is very heavy-handed, and the court hasn't never done this before. And both of them, again, are not surprising now. People shouldn't be surprised because those of us who have been watching have seen this coming for a long time. So now finally people wake up and are ready to fight. Okay. Like I say, the reason the fighting gets so extreme in Aries is if we haven't been fighting or paying attention the whole time, now all of a sudden we wake up and we're ready to fight. I wonder how many of the people who are now ready to fight, let's say, for example, over the abortion issue or whatever, I wonder how many of them voted last time, or how many of them didn't vote for the person who appointed all these Supreme Court justices or whatever. Now, all of a sudden, ready to fight. And I'm also just saying this, again, I'm using the politics and whatnot as an example of the backlash now, the fired up nature. Okay. But that's one possibility. The other possibility is that, and they're congruent, but within like a yogic lifestyle and a spiritual lifestyle, Mars in Aries gives the power to really land your spiritual practice, really land your disciplined life, having the discipline to really do what you know is right. Eating the right amount of food, waking up early, doing meditation, making yourself strong. All that potential is there, and both are possible. You could still be speaking out and protesting or doing things, sticking up for what you think is right. Maybe you think it's right because there are people just as fired up on the other side who think, yes, finally the court has taken away a woman's rights. Yes, finally, we've been able to take away a woman's rights. And they're fired up about that and ready to fight to continue to take away a woman's rights. That is what the law is, by the way, because if people don't agree with having an abortion, they simply don't need to have one. Problem solved. So those who are fired up about the other side are fired up about taking away the rights. Yeah, we get to take away your rights. Yay! We're going to force you to have a baby you don't want. Yay! Like, okay. They're happy that they are taking away a person's rights. So again, but there are people fired up about that. Aside from those mundane concerns, again, being fired up about your own personal growth, I know for myself, been a lot more disciplined the last few days. I mean, I'm relatively disciplined most of the time. I have Mars and Leo in my chart, but been really feeling, especially the physical energy, physical exercise, the physical, not just doing things like playing tennis. I just played tennis today, but also making sure to swim a few laps in the pool. Like usually when I'm feeling disciplined, I'll go down to the pool. I have a pool like 5-minute walk from my front door, and I'll go down and swim 20 laps twice a day. Again, it's not that hard. It doesn't take that long. There's also a hot tub there. And I also went to the beach and got in that cold water, take a nice cold swim. So been feeling really disciplined to be doing these things. As Mars got really close to Aries, right? And then again, we also have Jupiter in Pisces. So these are all conditioning factors of this next month, with the moon in Gemini, starting this Gemini cycle of questioning things, figuring things out for ourselves, not just believing what we're told, right? Again, that's the main thrust of the next month, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit more, but I'm also just giving the conditioning factors as well. And again, this Jupiter in Pisces shows that this is a great time for us all to be learning these kinds of teachings. This is also why I've been emphasizing and making some of these introductory courses available to people a lot of people watch my videos and they say, where can we start to learn? Is there a way we can start to learn more? That's about the best offer I can make, and really one of the best I've seen. About 10 hours of really professional, hardcore teachings that really the value is at least a couple $100 for only $10. But again, with this Jupiter in Pisces, it's now a great time for people to really expand and be blown away by the miracle of these Vedic teachings. Pisces is the sign that Jupiter rules. It's about connecting to metaphysical cosmic truths, metaphysical cosmic teachings. And by the way, this Ardra, where the moon is, again, Gemini is also very much an intellectual sign. And Ardra is really that explosive cosmic mystical mind that is very natural for Gemini thinking. That Ardra nakshatra is very much that kind of transformative mystical thinking that is ready to buck tradition and say, look, I know there's all these proper teachings, but what is those teachings that are transcendent beyond the world, that blows my existing paradigm out of the water? That's what Ardra really is, because this is where the plane of the galaxy runs. Ardra is right on the galactic plane. And the galactic plane is where all the power comes, the real cosmic power. It's called the Vishnu Nabi, and it's very incredible. It's a very strong and incredible source of mystical and cosmic wisdom. And when you look up in the sun now, when you look up in the sky and you're looking up at the sun, realize that you're looking away from the center of the galaxy. Like you're looking out into deep space. When the sun is in Sagittarius, you're looking back into the center of the galaxy. Now you're looking away from the center, looking out into the vastness of space. That's what Ardra nakshatra is, and Gemini constellation. So again, this is metaphysical wisdom that is transcendent beyond this earth. And that's really what it takes to be doing things like astrology. Again, just to say, in particular, Indian astrology, for most Westerners especially, this is a very outside, transcendent, cosmic way to see the world. But it also, when it's taught correctly and properly like this, it's very grounded, and you understand how and why it works. And by the way, I've spent 25 years or so 20 years or so teaching this stuff. about 20 years. So, you know, I know there's a lot of people online. I've been teaching these courses a long time. So this wisdom is grounded in in practices and methods, not just endless theory. And so, but it's still transcendent wisdom. So this powerful Jupiter in Pisces now is a time for you to connect with this transcendent cosmic power that's all around. And so again, I'm offering my version of it here, but there are other versions of it as well. And this is why your mind is thinking that way also. That's the thing to realize as well, is when I'm saying these things to you, I know what's in your mind right now. I know that you've been looking for higher inspiration and wisdom and really feeling it in the midst of all the crazy stuff in the world. And again, I talk about the things of the world because it's the shared reality we have. But, you know, it bothers me, these recent events, of course, because wars and people's rights taken away and the precedent that's being set, because that court is now poised to start taking away a lot of other rights. Judge Clarence Thomas said it. He's like, well, this also calls into question things that will overturn gay rights and other kinds of rights. By the way, I wonder if he's going to overturn interracial marriage laws, because the interracial marriage laws only happened 6 years before Roe v. Wade. And interracial marriage is not in the Constitution either. So someone should ask Justice Clarence Thomas that, because it was in 1967 that the interracial marriage law was enacted. Only 1973 was Roe v. Wade. And the big judicial excuse for being able to overturn Roe v. Wade is there's nothing in the Constitution about the abortion. Yeah, there's nothing in the Constitution about blacks being able to marry either. Interracial marriage either. In fact, there's nothing in the Constitution about black people except enslaving them. So do we want to be originalist, Judge Thomas? And how about we just roll things back a few more years? See, and I'm bringing this up just to illustrate. These are the kinds of things, this is the hypocrisy that has a lot of people angry now. And I started this by saying, I see these things and they bother me because the injustice and the hypocrisy, it's not just terrifying for the people that are going to lose their rights, but the precedent that it sets. Because now anything is on the table, including things like astrology and yoga and whatnot. Because all of this is conservative Christian fundamentalism. And you think they don't have these beliefs that astrology is the devil and all this other kind of stuff? So those of you who are cheering this, especially who like astrology and are cheering the court taking away these rights, that's all they're doing, is taking away tolerance, really is what it is. Tolerance for people who aren't Christian or perhaps white or whatever, straight. Do you think that doesn't include things like astrology and these other things? So be careful when the courts, who are 9 unappointed people, start doing this stuff. So again, in the midst of that, and I want to be clear, I'm feeling incredibly empowered and incredibly inspired and strong and healthy and spiritually aligned. And all of these things are possible. We still live in the world, and we can let our voice be known and not bypass it, as a lot of people do. So-called spiritual people bypass all this stuff. It's great to have the luxury to bypass, and I could bypass it all because I'm a white man of a certain age. I should be cheering all this. It's not affecting me. Anyway, so these Gemini times right now, this Gemini cycle is where these things are going to be contended with. Now we're going to really see and evaluate what we think about these things, about how much our beliefs are how much they make sense. And those people, people hold these beliefs about, people hold these beliefs about the Constitution or about the laws or about black people or interracial marriages or abortions, but how much sense does it make? Come on. What's going on here? Oops. Wait a sec. There we go. Sorry about that. How much sense does it make that once you start to analyze these things and notice the details and how they impact other people? Because that's also the nature of Gemini, is to care about the country, the culture, and whatnot. So Ardra is Lord Shiva and his desire and capacity to blow things up and destroy things, especially the conventional wisdom and especially the orthodoxy. Things like priests or overlords, like these Supreme Court justices are basically like priests and overlords. Again, it doesn't get much more Jupiter. The courts and justice and these unassailable, Jupiterian figures lording over people, and Mercury and Gemini and Ardra is the opposite of that, where that gets challenged and blown up. So again, this is another reason why these are such explosive times. This new moon in Gemini in Ardra has enormous explosive potential. The last planet that I haven't mentioned is Saturn, is also retrograde in Aquarius, but he's in between Aquarius and Capricorn, where Saturn is very powerful, and his nature to allow us to concentrate on what we deem important enough to concentrate on is there. So again, now there's a lot of things socially to be concentrating on, but again, look at all these things personally as well. Again, I'm talking about the external things in the world now as a reference point, of course, but you can also see these things as your own life. What beliefs do you have that are just hanging around that you're not challenging, that you're holding on to, instead of blowing them up and realizing, yes, this is not taking me anywhere? What kind of old, worn out beliefs are in your life, if there are any? Maybe there aren't any. Most people are somewhat buying into certain, ideas and beliefs that aren't really serving them. So where is that? That's really the Gemini principle in contrast to the Sagittarian principle. What are you really concentrating on and really committed to? That's the Saturn themes. What do you need to let go of and prevent and stop doing? Stop wasting time on this thing. Stop wasting time on that thing. Where is that in your life? So that you can concentrate more fully on the thing that you need to be concentrating on. Again, that's Saturn. He's retrograde now, so it might feel like you're reflecting on that. But as you're reflecting, just notice that time allowance and wastage of time, perhaps, in this context of even transforming ideas and whatnot. And as I said, we also, again, have Mars in Aries, where there's going to be a potential for a lot of disciplined energy, action, particularly in your day-to-day life, in your habits, routines. Look at things, especially like diet, food, energy, expenditure of energy, expenditure of physical energy, doing those things that make you strong, that are right, doing what is right, not just talking about it. That's the big Mars currency, right? But yet, again, as I said, Venus and Mercury, both in Taurus, can show a time of great beauty in your life and great joy in the simple pleasures, and not just for your benefit, but for others as well, but also for your benefit, like being creative and enjoying nature and enjoying music and enjoying other people can be very important. I've definitely felt this Venus and Mercury in Taurus for a while now. I've been setting up a new routine where I spend a lot of time at the beach, go down. I have an office near the beach. I got it for that reason, so that I could spend more time at the beach, and it's really felt good. I go set up a tent, and it's easy, like, sort of pop-up tent, and I'm there for hours. I go swim a couple times in the nice cold ocean. It feels great. And then enjoy the nature and the beauty. It's really wonderful. So again, great time to be enjoying nature this next month and things like that as well. And of course, Gemini and the new moon in Gemini. Gemini is about ideas, communication. What do you communicate? How well do you think? How clearly are you thinking? How much discrimination are you bringing to your words, your ideas? And, you'll be known by your ideas and the value of those ideas. And also not just your ideas, but how you convey them, how you communicate them is very important. And mostly the Gemini principle is where we're willing to question and challenge our own beliefs. And make no mistake, we're all a bunch of beliefs. You hear my beliefs. Sometimes people show up, and when they get mad at me for saying things on my videos that they don't agree with, they have this idea that's like, you're so blinded by your beliefs, you don't even know it, blah, blah. I'm not blinded by them. I say them very you can tell what they are relative to certain to issues or something, like if I talk about them. Because I have, if you want to call them beliefs or ideas or facts about these things, I'm not blinded by the beliefs, but blinded in the sense of, it's not like I don't know it. when I'm talking about some idea, yes, I believe that we should be free to choose things. I believe the government shouldn't tell us what to do in this regard, relative to social issues. Within reason, there are some things that we need to be prevented from, and not necessarily individually, but like especially with companies and corporations, they need to be reined in. People need to be given as much freedom as possible, etc. So yeah, these are beliefs I have. Do I challenge them? Yes, I question them. There are times when I definitely question them. Like when we had things like the not mask mandates, but vaccine mandates and things getting mandated. I understand why there needs to be a control, but I understand why you can't do it too much. We have to question these things all the time. We have to be open to question and change our beliefs. And mine change all the time. I have a bunch of planets in Gemini. So I'm always willing to be wrong about things. They're certainly not blind, and they shouldn't be blind in you. You should examine your beliefs. And you can tell when someone hasn't examined their beliefs when the things they say about their beliefs don't make any sense. When they don't make any sense. And you can tell when they don't make sense because they try to articulate what they believe or what they don't like about what you believe, and their statements don't make any sense. By the way, if you want a case study in this, go back and look at some of the comments in some of my videos, and you'll see people don't like what I say, so they say that my beliefs are wrong, but then you hear what they say about their beliefs, and their beliefs don't make sense, meaning they literally don't make sense. They say things that aren't factual. And again, they haven't examined what they believe. The things they believe, literally, when they try to explain them, don't make sense. Now, again, I'm not trying to just make this a personal thing. I'm really not. I'm giving you an example, though, of how you can look in your life and what's supposed to happen when we examine our beliefs. We believe something, okay, you believe it. That's great. Now explain it. If you can't explain it, then your belief is also very shaky. And it turns into a fanatical belief where now you're just going to defend it no matter what. No matter what. It doesn't make sense. You just believe it, and that's it. Let's use the example of like the abortion or the other kind of thing that people just believe. You just believe white people are better. You just believe gays shouldn't marry. Or you believe, abortions are wrong no matter what. Okay. And explain why. And then you hear the explanations. So, and we get disconnected from the ramifications of certain beliefs, just religious beliefs. Okay, you believe Jesus is the only savior. Okay, well, what about all the Buddhists? What about all the Hindus? Okay, so you want to prevent a woman's right to choose. Okay, what does she do for the rest of her life? You're saying prevent her to do this. You're not just preventing her from doing one thing. This is a baby that's going to grow in her body. You're going to force her to make the baby grow in her body, then give birth to it, then raise it. That's what you're saying. Explain that. Explain the support you're now going to give her or for this precious life. Again, and I'm not saying they're easy issues. They're not easy issues because do I like the idea of that? No, I don't. But it's not of abortion? Of course not. No one does. No one says, yay, abortion. No one does. It's called complicated. But you weigh things like this. And by the way, I'm also intelligent enough to know that all the abortion laws on the books are very strict up to a certain age of legitimacy, up to 20 to 25 weeks. After that, you actually can't terminate legally unless the health of the mother. So even up until, and most people who want to just prevent it, let's say on this issue, haven't even examined this. They haven't examined it. It's like conception, and it's automatically guaranteed a full lifetime. Again, so this is an example of beliefs that are up now, and how when beliefs aren't examined, they descend into things that don't make sense. And you can tell in your life what are some of the things that you believe, maybe about astrology. Maybe you believe astrology is this or that or this or that. What happens when you try to explain what astrology is? Literally, you just believe it. I already said it's not a belief system. Astrology is not a belief system. I don't believe in it. I don't believe in it. I practice it, and I know how it works. I know how astrology works. And I spend a lot of time examining and questioning my own beliefs and my own paradigms about how it works, because I'm very curious about it. So again, that's a big quality of Gemini and this next month. Gemini in this next month is curiosity and the willingness to question your beliefs because you're curious. And by the way, if you make a mistake, if I make a mistake, I'll say, sorry, I made a mistake. I don't say things that I don't know to be true. Again, it doesn't mean you agree with them or even that they're all always 100% right. But usually I don't say something unless I know it's right. If I don't, I say, I don't know. And it's okay that I don't know. If I do say something that I thought was right and it was wrong, I'll say, you know what, I was wrong. But I usually don't do it. It doesn't mean everything I say is right, especially that someone doesn't agree with it. But I know why I said it, and I can explain why I said it because I've thought about it. And this is an example. Now, I have a lot of Gemini. So Gemini, it's kind of like my whole life revolves around this stuff, which is another problem. That can be a problem too. But this is the thing to really look at in your life. Examine what you say and things that you believe. And these are big things. Things that you believe about your relationships, things that you believe about your career, things that you believe about your family, things that you believe about the world in general. That the world is, again, now all the conspiracies we've been going through, all of the, how much your politics and your whole world has been shaken up the last few years, and now you have some belief about it. Maybe, again, examine that and examine it. Try to examine it objectively, as if you don't know, and you're not going to be looking for someone to believe. And see, this is what winds up happening. By the way, people do it to me. I trust you. I believe you. I hear it all the time. It's like, I don't want people to trust me or believe me. You can listen, and I want you to think and know it yourself, not just believe it because I said it. People are too much followers instead of thinkers. Think for yourself. The problem is people don't think for themselves. They let someone else think for them, and then they believe what that person said. This is a huge problem in the world. By the way, that's why we have cult-like thinking everywhere now. All these social media influencers, you might think I'm one of them. I do not try to be one. I'm not trying to get people to believe in me or blah, blah, blah. I want people to think for themselves. And I literally do. I'm not trying to get people to believe in me or believe everything I say. Think for yourself, but do good investigation. By the way, this is the same thing is true with my students and everything else. I give them the frameworks, and I try to give them to them in a way so that it evokes their intelligence, not just hearing my voice say it over and over again, because that's going to fail at some point. You have to think for yourself and have these things be living concepts that are alive, not just things that you're repeating because you heard a teacher say it and you believe them. Again, all of these classes, by the way, I'm teaching these frameworks. That's why when you teach things like neuroscience and survival. And the reptile brain is related to Saturn, which is fear, Mars, which is anger and discipline. The mammal brain, which is Venus, is related to happiness. Mercury is related to the details. This is how mammals work. And then the human brain. This is related to the sun, the moon, and Jupiter, the power of self, the power of love, and the power of meaning. This is directly related to the triune brain, which is a neuroscientific concept that's been around a long time. I also talk about the RAS, or the reticular activating system, where we project our brain out and seek affirmation and seek confirmation bias. We keep seeking and finding the thing we're looking for. Most of us aren't thinking clearly. We're not thinking clearly, which is Gemini, which is using our discrimination and intelligence. No. Instead, we already believe something, and then when we hear somebody say it, we're like, I really like that guy. And all they're doing is confirmation bias. So many of these influencers now, even some of them that I think are okay, their information is terrible. They get half the facts wrong, and everybody just believes in what they say instead of understands these concepts for themselves. So that's the big thing right now, is to really examine these things for yourself and think clearly about these things, investigate these things. You know, the internet is wonderful. It is a wonderful tool, especially if you go to like great educational websites and stuff. Not, again, believe social media people. That's not investigating anything. That's just lapping up confirmation bias. It's like, it's like drinking from the trough of confirmation bias. You're probably not learning anything. You might enjoy it. I enjoy it sometimes, hearing people that agree with me say the same stuff. Okay. But that's not learning anything, particularly about issues that you want to understand. And again, if you want to learn things like about astrology and learn how all this stuff comes together, especially about karma, this first day here, this yoga, Ayurveda, Vedic astrology, most of it, I'm talking about things like, karma and dharma and truth and literally the timeline of life on earth, the structures of Sankhya philosophy, which are literally things like karma and dharma and elements and gunas and evolution and all of these things that are really at the heart of everything that you're doing, whether you know it or not. That's once you get grounded in that kind of knowledge of life, that's what Veda is the knowledge of life. Once you get grounded in that and those principles, everything changes. So now is a great time for that with this new moon in Gemini. And again, I know I talked a lot about some issues that might be sort of triggering, but these are things that are up for all of us now, and we can really see them. So I don't keep them out of my forecast. And if people don't necessarily agree with my personal take on it, that's fine. And you can debate that with me if you want, respectfully, hopefully. If not, I don't deal with it. But it's too hard to not. We're living in a world where so much is going on, and it's a great blessing to be able to see it in front of you and see how the astrology is showing it. So again, a lot of the next month we'll also have this, Venus in Taurus, Mars will be in Aries, that discipline the whole time. Jupiter is in Pisces the whole time, and Saturn will either be in Aquarius or Capricorn. A lot of power, especially to evolve, elevate, and transcend difficulties in your life. So anyway, I hope this was helpful and that you like and share